Hello students, in this lecture we will discuss short story titled The Gift of the Magi, written by O.Henry. First of all, we will discuss a brief biography or introduction to the writer O.Henry. O.Henry, pseudonym for William Sidney Porter, means the actual name of the author was William Sidney Porter, but for writing he used the name of O.Henry. He was a talented American writer. He is considered one of the most outstanding short story writers of all time. He had a checkered career, and before he became a writer, he was a drugstore assistant, a journalist, and a teller in a bank. Means he did different types of jobs during his career. Uh, he worked as a drugstore assistant, as a journalist, and as a teller in a bank. Teller means cashier. In 1896, he was accused of embezzling funds from his employers, First National Bank, Austin, and was sent to prison for 3 years. While in jail, he began publishing stories as O. Henry. When he was in jail, because he was blamed to embezzle the funds of bank from his employers, he was jailed or prisoned for 3 years, and it was in the jail that he began his career as a writer under the name of O.Henry. He soon became very popular and wrote about 600 stories in his life. His varied experience of life enabled him to portray his characters with rare insight and brilliance. He deals vividly with the life of the people in the lower strata of society. Vividly means clearly. The people, the characters in his writings are mostly the people who belong to the lower strata of society and the humble people with whom he spent most of his life. His style of telling a story is the familiar one, the way a grandmother tells a story to a child, and yet he can mingle humor and pathos. The story writing or the style of telling a story of O. Henry is similar to a grandmother who tells a story to her grandchildren, because he mingles means he mixes the humor and pathos. He mixes funny moments and uh, pathos means a quality that evokes pity out of us. He mixes both of these things in his stories. The distinguishing feature of his stories is the surprise or twist at the end, which often belies the anticipated development of the story. Means most of his stories have a surprise or twist at their ends. So we see that O. Henry is a very great English writer. Let us now discuss a very brief introduction to the story. The Gift of the Magi is one of O. Henry's most celebrated stories. It depicts a strange incident in the life of a poor young couple. Both the husband and the wife part with their most precious treasures, and it turns out that their sacrifices were made in vain. Means in this story, a husband and wife both sell their precious things to give presents or gifts to each other, but it is in vain. But the futility of their presence notwithstanding, their love grows deeper and makes them happier. So, this is a very interesting story. Let us now discuss it. The gift of the Magi. Magi here represents the three wise men who went to the place where Jesus Christ was born to give him presents, to offer him his presents as a respect. So, the very title of the story tells us that the story is related to Christianity. The gift of the Magi begins at the small and meager flat of Jim and Della Dillingham Young. What was the name of the young couple? James, his nickname was Jim, and Della Dillingham Young. On the day before Christmas, the story is the day of one day before the festival of Christmas. Della has just finished paying the bills and finds that all she has left to spend on a present for Jim is $1.87. Della was busy in paying the bills. After finishing her bills, she comes to know that she had left with only $1.87, and with that money she had to give a gift. A present means a gift to her husband named Jim. At first she bemoans her situation as the narrator takes note on the broken mail chute and doorbell, the small pier glass mirror, and the grey cat walking across the grey fence in the grey backyard. The writer says that when she notices that she has a very little money to buy a gift for her husband on the eve of Christmas, first she feels unhappy, as the writer himself describes her poor condition, or he describes her condition that she was lack, that there was lack of money to for Jim and Della. He uses the phrases the small wire glass mirror, grey cat walking across the grey fence in the grey backyard. All these things that they were lacking, they were running short of money. Della struggles to find a solution to her predicament. She wants to get Jim, her husband, a present means a gift that she will treasure, that he will treasure. She wants to give her husband such a kind of gift to which her husband likes to his most and rightly deserves for all of his hard work. But she only has $1.87 to spend. But actually she has very little money to buy a present or gift for him. Then she gets an idea. The most valuable thing she has is her hair. Her hair is long and beautiful, and she compares it to the beauty of the Queen of Sheba. She gets an idea in her mind. She thinks that the most valuable or most precious thing she has is her hair. Her hair was very long and beautiful, and she often compares her hair with the beauty of the Queen of Sheba. So she quickly puts on her old brown coat and her old brown hat, and after wearing her clothes, she hurries off to a hairdresser. After wearing her clothes, she swiftly goes to the shop of a hairdresser whose name was Madame Sofroni. Sofroni cuts off Della's hair and gives her $20 for it. Della then begins to search for the perfect present for Jim. After getting her hair cut for $20, she begins to search for a perfect gift for her husband Jim. After being disappointed by the gifts she sees because they just aren't good enough, she she sees so many gifts for her husband, but she doesn't like all of those gifts because they were not good enough. Then she remembers Jim's most treasured possession. Then she remembers the most treasured possession of her husband Jim, which was his grandfather's gold watch. She remembers the gold watch given to Jim by his grandfather. She also remembers that Jim had to tie a leather strap to the watch after the original chain broke. She thinks that when his original chain will broke, he has to tie a leather strap to his watch. And that was precisely the type of gift she wanted to buy for him. She goes from shop to shop looking for just the right watch chain until she at last finds a handsome chain. Means when she remembers the gold watch which was given to her husband Jim by his grandfather, she thinks that she will gift him a golden chain for his watch. She tries for it at so many shops, and at last she is able to find a handsome chain for his watch. Students, this was the discussion of half of the story. Tomorrow we will continue with the remaining part of the story, the gift of the Magi. Thank you very much.